Now that that ridiculously loud ice cream truck is gone, I can finally record this video. Today we're going to take a look at some boxes, which is super exciting, but I'm not really joking. It's limited editions we're going to take a look at, which I really enjoy. I have kind of like is interested in package design. I've also done some package design when I was a graphic designer. The cool thing about video game LEs are that they include a variety of media like games, well, obviously games, but I mean like books and CDs and stuff like that too. And everything has to be housed together in an efficient and attractive package. So that's why we're going to take a look at some limited editions today, and I'll show you some of my favorites in my collection. The definition of limited edition is going to be loose for this video. As long as it's not, the standard sort of packaging, then it qualifies for the video. So let's not get hung up about whether something's called a collector's edition or special edition or first edition. As long as it has more than just a game and is interesting, then it's in this video. Keep in mind that I can only talk about stuff I actually own. My collection is a bit skewed towards Japanese games, especially Neptunia, Disgaea, and Senran Kagura stuff. I even did a top 5 Neptunia limited edition video last year. Though I will talk about the series in this video, there will be plenty of other stuff to look at today. Overall, I think there's enough here to talk about in terms of various aspects of limited editions in general, so if you have some LEs yourself, I hope it'll encourage you to discuss or bring up some cool aspects or unusual things about LEs you have. I'll start with the first limited edition I ever bought. It's the PC version of GTA San Andreas. Already it's starting off controversial because there's an argument that this is not really a limited edition, but like I said, I don't really care. It's like one of those first edition things. The point is, it has more than just a game, so it's interesting. There's actually multiple firsts with this game for me. It's the first game I ever pre-ordered, and it's the first game I ever bought online, specifically from Future Shop. Remember that store? I really like the map it came with, and also that hardcover guidebook. It's supposed to be like a tourist guide, but it has jokes and gags in it. Not sure how well they aged, but still, it's fun to look through. The map especially made the game feel really big at the time. Having 3 cities and then rural areas between them was a lot of fun. Perhaps not as big as, a lot of the games in that style now are, but very impressive at the time. Seeing this map just made me more excited to get started playing the game. The French version of the book is so bad. It's softcover and just black and white, so yeah, it's not amazing. One weird thing about this LE is that the game disc is just held in place somehow on the back of the book, so it's not very secure at all. I ended up just putting the game in a jewel case. I've got various Senran Kagura limited editions. I'm missing the Bon Appetit LE because it went missing in the mail. And I also don't have the highest tier LE for burst renewal, but other than that, my North American collection is fairly complete. Most of the LEs are similar to each other, those being specifically Shinobi Versus, Estival Versus, and Burst Renewal. They have a shiny silver or chrome-like reflective background, and they're about the same size. They're relatively compact for a limited edition, I'd say. Peach Beach Splash is super cardboardy, which is kind of strange. And Senran Kagura 2 Deep Crimson is a totally different form factor, as it adheres to a 3DS sort of style. I'm going to pick the 3 chrome-colored LEs as my favorites. So yeah, now it's 3 games at the same time, but whatever. The reason I'm going all 3 is mainly because I like the continuity of the design. Normally you could argue that they look a bit samey, but since the shiny look is so unique, I think it's excused. I think the consistency in branding is good. Overall, the LEs also feature a good variety of items without suffering too much from reused art. I will give an honorable mention to the Senran Kagura 2 Deep Crimson limited edition. It's very small, perhaps as thick as 2 3DS game cases, I think. So that's kind of cool. And I also like the red and green look they've got going on. It's kind of unique to the franchise. We're now in the Neptunia section of the video. I already told you about my favorites in the other video, but because I have so many, I'd like to point out some specific limited editions that show how different they can be despite being from the same series. With Neptunia, we'll start with the premium edition of Hyperdimension Neptunia for the PS3. So this is the first game. This is actually the first anime-style niche game LE I ever got, and it kickstarted this whole appreciation of limited editions in the first place. If you ordered it from the Nisa store, you also got a deck of cards, as long as you were one of the first 1,000 to do so. Yes, NIS America published Neptunia games back then, not Idea Factory. Also back then, LEs from Nisa were very standardized, let's say. I thought it would be cool to show an example of this not very imaginative style. They were all this size and had this oversized PS3 box style. Atelier Rorona and Artonaliko Koga also feature the same style. I recall many people damaging or even ripping off that flap thing, when they tried to open it up, but like I can't even imagine doing that. Like how brutally would you need to attack it for that to happen? Calm down. Inside there's a game and a hardcover art book. Unfortunately, the colors are quite out of whack with the art book. Despite the lack of content and originality, I do kind of like this form factor and size, at least. It's like a giant game case, basically. But I found it interesting that, back then, Neptunia didn't have an established, style or look because it was just the first game and, it's just so different compared to every other LE that came out afterwards. So I think that's kind of cool. Now I want to talk about two Neptunia games at the same time, though they're actually the same game. Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory, but one's the North American LE and the other is the Japanese version. Very interesting to see how different they are. For reasons yet to be determined, NIS America went full lunchbox mode. Very interesting, but also a bit strange. The weirdest bit for sure is the fact that there's another very small metal box inside it. Like, what do I even use that for? Now in Japan, things are quite different. The box is very similar to other Japanese LEs. It's like a portrait box that's kind of fat. Quite a bit of unique stuff in there, like some chibi-style figures, a drama CD, and a manga that has the weirdest form factor I can remember seeing. There's this gift card too, which is one of those things that you can use in many stores to buy books. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. At first, I thought it was a phone card, but that would have been a bit weird for a country that's, that has such high cell phone saturation for such a long time. But then again, Japan can barely do online banking and they still use fax machines for everything, so you never know. But yeah, huge contrast in terms of basically everything with these two limited editions. Kind of crazy to think about considering these are the same games. Something I was doing at the time when these LEs came out was I was going to, try and keep track of all the limited editions and also their content in a spreadsheet. If you look at not just the Neptunia LEs, but everything from NIS America, there's this very distinctive serial number, and I even kept track of that because every item had like a different number. But it turned out being an organizational nightmare, so I quickly stopped that practice. I mean, I didn't really enjoy it, so, what's the point? I tried doing the same with all my accounts and passwords, actually, and the results were about equally as fun. Thankfully, when it comes to passwords, there actually is a tool that makes it easy, unlike my stupid spreadsheet method, and that is NordPass, the sponsor of today's video. NordPass is an easy-to-use and secure password manager from the creators of NordVPN. Get up to 70% off a 2-year NordPass premium plan. Go to nordpass.com/YSN or use code YSN at the checkout and get an additional 1 month for free. The problem these days, as I'm sure you know, is that everything requires a login. So that makes it tempting to reuse passwords or use, for example, Facebook or Google to log into everything. But if your reused password gets compromised because of the data leak or your Facebook account gets hacked, then, well, things aren't looking too great, are they? Thankfully, NordPass makes things easier and more secure. It allows you to store all your passwords, but you only have to remember your master password. Not even NordPass can see your encrypted vault, just you. Using unique passwords for every site is easy because NordPass recognizes sites and autofills your details. My old silly spreadsheet did not do that, obviously. I personally use Android, iOS, Mac, and PCs, and it works great on all those platforms. Some of the most frequently used passwords people use are their names, 123456, or their favorite sports teams, but those are so easy to crack. Thankfully, NordPass has a powerful password generator that keeps you from having to resort to potentially easily guessable words or terms. Or you can use it and pretend you're Elon Musk and you're looking for something to name your child. That's another option. You can also see if any account info or credit card info has been leaked with the data breach scanner. It lets you know what's affected so you can make necessary changes to passwords or whatever it may be to ensure you're secure. Another nice feature is that NordPass can save and autofill your credit card and personal details when you're shopping online. Again, get up to 70% off a 2-year NordPass premium plan. Go to nordpass.com/YSN or use code YSN at the checkout and get an additional 1 month for free. Thankfully, it's risk-free because there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. And now back to the video. Alright, so we have the Neptunia section done. So now let's talk about other games. Next up is the best deal I've ever gotten on a video game. It's the limited edition of Bioshock 2 on PC, and I got it for 99 cents, which is amazing considering that A, I've never played this game, and B, It has a record in there. I got it from EB Games that has since closed down. I don't know, maybe that's why it was cheap. It was in Newmarket beside that Quiznos, if you know where that is. I saw that they had exactly one copy in stock at 99 cents, so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna pick that up. Funnily enough, I've never played the game, like I said, and I haven't played the first one either. I did play the demo and I didn't really enjoy it. Apparently a lot of people are into Bioshock, but I guess I'm not one of those people. But I do like this limited edition. It's huge. Thankfully, the box itself isn't damaged, despite the sleeve being so beat up. The art style is very interesting. The butterfly consisting of the handprints actually looks like brushstrokes, like if you're far away. And then, when you come closer, you notice it's actually handprints. I really like this effect. It's like, it starts to look creepier as you get closer. It kind of looks like an awesome album art cover rather than just being a video game box. The record is the real winner of this LE. I'm not a fan of the faux grungy packaging, but let's just excuse that, considering the price I paid. The Art Deco styling is still pretty cool though. The record contains the soundtrack of the first game, by the way. The second game's soundtrack is on the CD. I quite like the music of the franchise. I say that about several things concerning, Bioshock with the way it looks or sounds, so I don't know, maybe I should give it a go sometime again. Next up, I want to show you Atelier Totori. I think this game is important in the series. Even though it was the second game in the Arland Quartet, it was the first of the 3D games to move away from the chibi-ish looking character models. There was just enough improvements here and there, and also with, various gameplay elements compared to Rorona, that you really started to think, man, this series might actually go somewhere. It has like a small but thick style box, a bit like that Neptunia one we looked at, the Japanese one. I really love the difference between the box and the game cover art. The box is like whimsical, light and airy, and yes, like I always say with Atelier games, it has a fairy tale feel. But the game case has this melancholic image of Totori looking at the sea with the town in the background, and it's kind of obscured by the fog. For some reason, that imagery and contrast strikes a chord with me, so I've always liked this LE just for that reason, even though the stuff that comes with this is, fairly standard. Let's stick with Atelier games for the next one. I've got a few more that I actually have, but I'll pick just one for this video, and that'll be Atelier Ryza 2. Honestly, it's like, it's kind of equal, the first and the second to me, and the only reason I gave it to the second game was the more unique form factor. It's so much bigger than the Ryza 1 box, and it also has this teal/turquoise border. I found the art book noteworthy because it has a scrapbook style. It looks kind of nostalgic. I do wish it was translated though. And now here again, I'm swayed by another illustration. It's the back of the box that I really like. It's an excellent example of making use of a portrait or vertical format. There's Ryza in the foreground, her friends in the background, the very grand and impressive clouds in the sky. It's almost like she's looking back at where she was, or, like as if she's just looking back just before going on a journey. Her friends are already setting off, and the sky is this sort of untouchable thing in the distance that is at the same time clearly visible while feeling so far away. Not sure if this was all intentional, but that's what my brain came up with in the instant I saw it. When I think about limited editions, or look at them on the shelf, I actually think about this illustration specifically quite often. I don't know, maybe it reminds me of something I've seen in my childhood, probably a bunch of vague memories that my brain rearranged into one bundle of unidentifiable thought. Now I want to show you somewhat of a recent acquisition. It's the limited edition of Mary Skelter Finale, the third and final game of the series. This is a very well done LE. It has a distinct visual style, and it's applied to the artwork on the packaging. Unfortunately, this is one of those releases where the game isn't inside the box. It's not a trend I like seeing, but other than that, it's great. There's a box for the extra content, and then there's this sleeve that holds 3 volumes of a light novel. Now that's a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of art being recycled. Everything like the art book and the seal case have their own distinct look, while still not deviating from the general look of the series too much. And there's also just good attention to detail everywhere. Like for example, the cover has this wraparound section, which I always enjoy seeing. I think Idea Factory does seem to be a fan of that. Hey, let's talk about some Disgaea now. I've got a few of those. Some are Japanese, most aren't. One has this inflated plastic bag in it, but the one I want to talk about is this, Disgaea One Complete. I like it because of how comprehensive it is. The box itself looks like those chests that the Prinnies carry around, which I think is really cool. or it's like a bag or something, or whatever, you know what it is. I think one of the best things an LE can do is bring an item from the game world to the real world, kind of like how with The Witcher 3 with Geralt's medallion. There's a bunch of interesting things also, like the Etna mousepad, which is called the Nopai mousepad. There's a plushie, which is kind of entertaining looking. There's also pins, a soundtrack, and other stuff too. It's quite elaborate, and it does have some unique items that I usually don't get with other limited editions. I mean, I can't remember the last time I got a set of coasters, for example. Not everything is of amazing quality. Like, for example, the printing is a bit blurry on the Etna mousepad, but it's not bad at all. I like the idea of the printy box, and it does come with a lot of stuff, like I said. Here's an LE that I like quite a bit again. I like all of them, obviously. I'm talking about my favorites. This is Morero Crystal H for the Nintendo Switch. I like how efficient it is in terms of design. There's a good amount of stuff in here, but the footprint is, it isn't huge. Big and elaborate limited editions are fun, but they can be a nightmare to store once you start accumulating several over the years. I like the art style of this LE, or just Morero Crystal in general, and also Morero Chronicle as well. The major items all have unique artwork, so the amount of reused stuff is very low. Nothing screams low effort as much as using the same image over and over again. There's some nice details like the mini Switch case, which can hold an actual game cartridge, the stickers, numbered certificate card, game case, inside background image, and full color manual and art book. Everything feels high quality too. There's nothing flimsy or wonky, which is excellent. There's a lot of LEs that cut corners somewhere, but this isn't the case here. It's all very consistent and nice. And next up here we have Shantae and the 7 Sirens limited edition, which I got from Limited Run Games. This is another LE where I like pretty much everything about it, and it's kind of the opposite of the Morero Crystal one. This box is decently big compared to the littleness of the previous game we looked at. I like when the game artwork is nice and big to match, but at the same time there isn't too much clutter going on, so everything looks clean and coherent. So from far away, it's not just like a collision of colors, you can actually see who the character is. Something very noteworthy is the underwater theme on the cardboard inserts that hold everything in place. It's so easy to just ignore that stuff and just leave it white, but here there's an actual design going on, which is a great way to make the package feel more interesting and special. There's low image duplication again. I like that the seal case has Shantae in her regular outfit while the LE box shows her in a coconut bikini, so, variations of the same artwork is interesting. And I also like that the background's different too. The Game Boy Color cartridge is very interesting. If I remember correctly, I wasn't too keen on it at first, mainly because it's non-functional and it's also clearly not a real PCB in there, and the battery is completely flat, so it's just like a printout. But I kind of softened my view on it since then. It just kind of looks nice, being on display, and it also commemorates the franchise's GBC beginnings. I actually have a great appreciation for the Shantae franchise. I'm not that great at playing the games, but I like the style and also the world and how the characters interact. I also like the creators' persistence in trying to get, their creation out into the world, even after the failed attempt with the first GBC title. So yeah, those are some of my favorite limited editions. I'm always bad when it comes to picking favorites. I think the real joy of collecting is to see the variety of how things are done and how, certain styles or patterns emerge over the years. I get new limited editions several times a year, so no doubt you'll see videos on those when I get them. 7 Pirates H is one that I should get soon, for example. I hope that was fun. Let me know what your favorite LEs are that you own or have seen maybe or know of. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there. And I'm sure there's even 1 or 2 things in my collection I forgot talking about, but that's how it goes. Remember, you can support me by going to patreon.com/YSN and becoming a tier 1, 2, or 3 supporter. You can get your name on the end card, see videos before they come out, and there's update posts as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.